drinks or drink sugary drinks. Just do, all sorts of stuff they know isn't good. But if they're counting calories, they might leave it, keep it within a certain range. No, it's not the way you do it. And if you're going to take healthcare advice, healthy advice, not healthcare, but advice on getting healthy, you're going to want to take it from a 70-year-old guy that looks like Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Guy looks like a bodybuilder. And he's out there eating exactly what he just talked about. I remember the food pyramid when I was a kid, and I remember thinking, well, that's interesting. And we all were thinking more salads and more greens and more vegetables and only meat, when it's really necessary, maybe once a day, if that, and not really fatty meats. Don't eat the beef. And then, of course, you add on top of that the idiots that pretend like global warming or climate change is a real thing we have to worry about. They also don't want you to eat beef because of the beef farts, the cow farts. They just don't want us to, because they really believe that somehow it's heating up the planet, which, by the way, isn't heating up. So at the end of the day, you've got to eat real foods. If you don't do what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. does, and you don't have to, and if you don't do what I do, and you don't have to, and you don't do what your neighbor, your coworker does, and you don't have to, at least do this. Start telling yourself, I'm going to eat food that only has 5 or fewer ingredients. And then change it to 3 or fewer ingredients. And then change it to, how about it's just meat? You know what I mean? It's just the one thing. It's just cheese. It's just the one thing. And if you do that, suddenly you're going to find yourself that much healthier, that much more energy. If you reduce the release of insulin without getting into and you can look this up yourself, I'm not a doctor. If you reduce the release of insulin in your body, insulin is a hormone that is a very powerful hormone. Like when I was lifting weights really heavily, we wanted to release a little bit of insulin because it helps your muscle to process that protein and make a bigger muscle. But it also helps your fat cells store more fat. It also helps the bad stuff do more bad stuff. So limiting the amount of insulin in your body is a big deal. The way that he's talking about eating now is the right way to go, and it would certainly limit the release of insulin. I'll have some sound bites when we come back on this, I believe, and we'll talk more about it, certainly. Bottom of the hour, again, it's going to be a great interview with Roger Marshall. He's a doctor along with being a senator. He's from the great state of Kansas. We talk about another thing the CDC specifically is doing, and it's about reducing the number of immunizations or injections or vaccines that Americans get. And it's a question. A lot of you have newborn babies in your families. A lot of you have pregnant women in your families. And the question is, do I give my child these shots when he or she is born? And the answer, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hint, not even a tease, just going to tell you. The answer is probably not. And he's going to get into that at the bottom of the hour. 833-JOE-PAGS, 833-563-7247, joepags.com. Stay right here.
You're listening to Joe Pags.
Clear.
What's happening, people? Sam, it's in what? Rapid One, or is it in the morning thing? When did you send me the videos?
Update 1.
Is there a great one?
Probably the second one with Levitt.
I kind of like McCary.
He was also really good.
Today marks the beginning of the end of an era of medical dogma on nutrition. For decades, we've been fed a corrupt food pyramid that has had a myopic focus on demonizing natural, healthy, saturated fats.
I just sent you the new government website that has the new pyramid. If you scroll down about halfway, it kind of comes in a cool graphic way.
Okay.
To make a short out of it.
I don't know if that's happening. We'll see. Making a short is not easy. It's got to be 9 by 16. Doing them 16 by 9, YouTube doesn't even call it a short. I can do it later, but not during the show. You like the first Levitt, where she talks about the victories, or the second one, Trump administration now updating?
Second one.
All right.
The Trump administration is now updating federal nutrition standards and guidelines to ensure that Americans have the most accurate, data-driven information support.
Hi, great to have you. Thanks. Appreciate you stopping by the Joe Pag Show. We've got a big interview with Dr. Roger Marshall, also a U.S. Senator, great state of Kansas at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk about the new immunization schedule, and it's a good thing because fewer shots, that's a good thing. If you've got a newborn baby, if you've got a child on the way, you can always lean into this interview because he's going to talk about what you should or shouldn't do, and actually made mention of, in our family recently, what should you or shouldn't you do? And it's an important question. Make sure you stick around for that. The new food pyramid. Now, Sam, you sent me the actual pyramid? Because I want to see what it looks like.
Yes.
It's
in your email.
Okay, eat real food. Well, that's not a link. It's the actual pyramid. Glitch today, which is actually very interesting. It doesn't happen that often. But yeah, it's been a little bit frustrating today, but we've got most of the show out pretty cleanly to you. Yeah, Sam, I don't see that on this website, therealfood.gov. It's a cool website.
It's about halfway down, yeah.
It's really not. It's not on that website. I'm going to have to look at the other one. I'll try it again. It's interactive. Why do I want it to be interactive? Why does it have to be so fancy?
It's fancy. They're doing a great job.
I'm going to show the people the fancy smanchy thing. America is sick. The data is clear. Okay, let me scroll down a little bit. I can't scroll down anymore. Then you go up, and it shows all sorts of some guy going fishing. Okay, real food. The real food starts. It doesn't. No, there's no food pyramid on there, and I can't show the email. So we'll just move on from that. But it's basically an upside down pyramid, which is fine. I'm glad to hear about it. It actually, they might as well just call it joepags.gov. You know what I mean, Sam? Just call it joepags.gov. It's the way I eat.
That's exactly how you eat.
Why not? Just call it that. So a couple of people stepped up to the microphone today. Dr. McCary stepped up to talk about exactly what this means, and I think it's all good news.
Today marks the beginning of the end of an era of medical dogma on nutrition. For decades, we've been fed a corrupt food pyramid that has had a myopic focus on demonizing natural, healthy, saturated fats, telling you not to eat eggs and steak, and ignoring a giant blind spot. Refined carbohydrates, added sugars, ultra-processed food. This study in JAMA now shows that 60% to 70% of kids are getting their calories from ultra-processed foods. That's an epidemic. We now have a generation of kids addicted to refined carbohydrates, low in protein. They are literally nitrogen negative because we've used old flawed studies that used urine nitrogen to estimate body protein metabolism, and they missed the mark. The old guidelines had such a low protein recommendation that we are increasing that by 50 to 100%. Kids need protein. The old protein guidelines were to prevent starvation and withering away. These new protein guidelines are designed for American kids to thrive, and they're based on science, not on dogma. We have 40% of our kids now with a chronic disease. It is not their fault. This is something that is the result of bad advice from the government and a medical establishment that for decades peddled research from a flawed 1960s model. Today we are setting the record straight. This is not a willpower problem of our nation's kids. This is something adults have done to kids, and we're going to fix it. And so, as Dr. Oz said, the best way to lower drug prices is for people to stop taking drugs they don't need. We are going to finally address the root causes of our broken healthcare system: insulin resistance and general body inflammation, advanced by the protein-poor, micronutrient-poor, ultra-processed, refined carbohydrate diet that kids are addicted to today. And so, on behalf of the Food and Drug Administration, we are proud to be a part of this. We are grateful to be contributing to this work. Thank you, Secretary Rollins. Thank you, Kyle Diamantis, the best deputy commissioner for food at the FDA the agency has ever had. This is a historic day in America. Thank you, Caroline.
It really is, and I'm so glad that they're actually just telling the truth now. Not that this group of people ever lied, but just go back a few years, and I talk about this at length with Dr. Marshall. Go back a few years. We were told you had to be 6 feet apart. Social distancing, that was a lie. It's made up. We were told masks would save us. That was a lie. The mesh in the masks is too big, and the COVID still came out. We were told that you couldn't go visit your mom or your grandparents at the old folks' home. That was a lie. We were told that you can go to the bar only till 10 or 11 o'clock at night because, COVID shows up at that time. That was a lie. We were lied to for many years. Just lied to. Take the shot that's going to stop the transmission. That was a lie. That was never true. So I'm glad they're telling us the truth now. Let me give you a little bit more. This is Caroline Levitt also outlining some of what was said today.
The Trump administration is now updating federal nutrition standards and guidelines to ensure that Americans have the most accurate, data-driven information supported by science and hard facts, not special interests or partisan ideology. President Trump has tasked two of the great individuals behind me, USDA Secretary Rollins and HHS Secretary Kennedy, with collaborating on this vitally important project. And today they are here to officially unveil the 2025 to 2030 Dietary Guidelines for America. These new guidelines are informed by the best and most reliable research on health and nutrition, particularly as it relates to the role of our diets in the prevalence of chronic disease in the country. They are also These guidelines are easy to read and understand, so every American, young and old, can access this information that literally has the power to change lives. But these are not just an updated guideline. These are the foundation to all federal food programs in our country. These new guidelines are going to update the food that is served to America's children in our public schools, to the plates that are served to our great men in uniform in our military, our veterans, and the food that they are consuming at the VA. And these new guidelines are also going to impact nutritional programs for the needy in our country, such as WIC and Head Start. Unfortunately, for decades, federal dollars has promoted low-quality, highly processed foods that lead to scores of long-term health issues, which mean...
Clear.
All right, people, keep it right here for the doctor. been a day, Twitch. You didn't get as much love as usual, but thanks for understanding technical issues. Deanna Cack, thanks for the 500. Appreciate you. And thanks for trying to gin up some support. You're the best. It was a rough few years because we didn't know what we should be taking, what we shouldn't be taking, what's the definition of a vaccine, what isn't a vaccine. I know growing up, we probably just got 7 shots. I think today the schedule, if you follow everything, is like 75 or something like that. I don't know anything about it, but I do know that I bring on people who do know about it. This is Dr. Roger Marshall, U.S. Senator, great state of Kansas. Doc, how are you? Good to see you again.
Joe, it's great to be with you, and I think we're all excited to see these new recommendations released from the CDC. I'm an OBGYN, so I had this same discussion with so many of my new moms asking what my advice was, and I think that the recommendations coming out are a step in the right directions. I think it's a step in restoring trust in the CDC, is they went from about 17 vaccinations to 11 now. And what I've always valued here is the doctor-patient relationship. And I think that's what the CDC is saying in these recommendations is, above all, talk to your doctor about the options out there. Talk to them about the pros and cons. Look, this is just like a medicine. I would never start a medicine on you or your child without talking to you about the pros and cons and the risk and benefits.
Yeah, I'm glad that you started there. That's really very important. We just very recently, I've got another grandchild, and my daughter was worried, do I give them the shots? Do I not give the child the shots? And the recommendation we got from our doctor, who also happens to be from Kansas, was, wait 6 months or wait 6 weeks or wait a little while, because getting all of these things all at once when the baby is born sometimes can cause some adverse effects that we're still studying. Who knows? Some people think that it could be some sort of a reason why the autism rate is so high now. Is that a good recommendation? Wait until the child builds a little bit of natural immunity before he or she gets the shots?
Well, I think that's what the CDC is saying here, particularly by delaying the hepatitis vaccine. And I think that was the biggest controversy, is they were before recommending hepatitis on day number 1. And my own daughter, with her first child, she said, "Dad, why do I need this hepatitis vaccine? Or why does your grandson, who we're going to name after you, need this hepatitis B vaccine?"
Yeah.
She said, "I talked to my doctor, and he said, well, unless you have hepatitis and unless they're going to get stuck with a needle from a drug user, there's no risk for it."
Yeah.
So I think it's really good to let the child's own immune system develop. Look, we don't know so much about our immune system. So when in doubt, leave it alone. Above all, do no harm. So I think your point is well taken, is delay them at least as much as we can.
It is Dr. Roger Marshall, U.S. Senator, great state of Kansas, also OBGYN, former Army, certainly still in Army Reserve. Are you retired Army Reserve, or are you still in there, Doc?
I'm not in the Army Reserve anymore, no.
Okay, so retired Army Reserve, we appreciate your service. Let's talk about the COVID vaccine. For a while under Biden, they were pushing as hard as they could from the NIH, from the CDC, the HHS, all of those organizations were run by idiots, in my opinion. You didn't say it, I did. But they were pushing to add the COVID shot to the childhood schedule before you can go to school in the United States of America. You and I have talked about this a lot. Children were at a minute risk of getting COVID, and if they got it, their immune system was so good, it wasn't a big deal. It was really about people who were much older. Is that off the table now? Are we not talking about that anymore? Hopefully we're not.
So they took the COVID vaccine off the highly recommended list. It's still an option out there. You can still go in there, talk to your doctor, and you can get it for your child, and your insurance company or Medicaid's going to have to pay for it. That's the other good thing, is even though they made some of these vaccinations optional, they're still insisting that insurance companies, Medicaid, et cetera, pay for it as well. But definitely the COVID falls into that category of it's up to you and the
Good.
doctor. But it's not being pushed at all. And just to your point, though, here we are years later. I don't know of any child under the age of 21 that died from COVID,
Right.
unless they had an underlying health problem. And we know for sure, though, that the COVID vaccination has some significant side effects that probably led to death of some children.
Yeah.
So I think that's, and we knew that early on, and that's why we're so upset with Fauci, is that he lied to us about it.
You're talking about restoring trust in the CDC, and that's a very, very important thing right now. I like what we're seeing from Robert F. Kennedy Jr. We like what we're hearing from the doctors that surround him, Dr. Makari, Dr. Oz, and others, Bhattacharya. What they're saying makes a lot of sense, but we don't trust, and it's simple why we don't, and you know this, Senator. We don't trust because the 6 foot distancing was a lie. It was made up out of the air. The wearing a mask was a lie. It didn't help because the molecules were smaller than the openings in the mesh. We know that the whole idea that you could go to a bar until 10 o'clock, but at 11 o'clock, COVID would show up. Or you could have 10 people at Thanksgiving, but not 11, because 11 would have made everybody get COVID. We were lied to systematically and systemically from the central government for a long time. So you're right. I think we're on the path to starting to trust again. But we almost feel like, and you mentioned Fauci, we almost feel like as an American people, we need somebody to be held accountable. Are people going to be held accountable for all the lies we were told for years?
Well, Joe, I wish I could sit here and say yes. We have committees that should be bringing Fauci in to testify, so to speak. I'm not sure what the delay is on those committees. I will say that there's other things that these same committees are investigating.
Yes.
There is a finite amount of oxygen out there. I'm as frustrated as you are.
And the people who call the show, and I've got a lot of people listening in Kansas and elsewhere, they certainly want some answers as well. You always are great at giving us some. It's Dr. Roger Marshall, U.S. Senator, great state of Kansas. Let's talk about what the left is saying about you guys on the right. The left, including Hakeem Jeffries, is the loudest voice, I think. They're pretending like you shut down the government because you didn't want to extend health care or the subsidies for the ACA, which is actually Obamacare. It is not affordable. It's a dumb name, the ACA. Having said all of that, the subsidies were put in for the pandemic, period. The subsidies didn't go to people. They went to insurance companies, period. What I've just said is true. They were also, the sunset date of December 31st of last year was put in by who? It was put in by the Democrats. And then they tried to pretend that Dr. Marshall didn't want to extend the ACA subsidies, and you're going to cause 14 million Americans to lose their health care. The messaging is really good from that side. They're lying their faces off. They're not telling the truth, but it's really good. Is your side doing a good enough job of informing the American people of what I just said? All the stuff that I just laid out is true about these subsidies. Are people getting the straight scoop, or do they believe that 14 million are going to lose health care?
Well, Joe, I think that when 90% of the media is telling people not the truth, if they're reinforcing what Congressman Jeffries is saying, it's really, really hard. And
Yeah.
I just want anyone that is listening to know that I want every American to have affordable, reliable health care that means something. At the same time, I don't want to throw away money either.
Yeah.
If there was so much fraud in Obamacare, $25 billion of fraud. Let me back up. We're sending $150 billion a year to insurance companies.
Right.
There's probably $25 billion of fraud. And just look at Minnesota. And people thought, oh, there's not as much going on there, but their finish line this year.
Senator, am I right though that the subsidies were added for the pandemic? The pandemic's been over since I think Joe Biden said it's over at the North American Auto Show in Detroit in like 2021. So it's been over for 4 years, or at least 3 or 4 years. Why would we ever even consider continuing the subsidies that were only given to the insurance companies to keep prices low because people are losing their jobs? They weren't allowed to go to work, so they couldn't afford health care through their employer. That's the only reason it was put there. Why would we leave a dime in that subsidies pool knowing that the pandemic's over? Do we need that money for some reason?
Well, no. So the old saying is today's favors are tomorrow's obligations.
Yes.
So let's examine Obamacare. The original ACA was paying about 80% of the premium. COVID hits, Joe Biden becomes the president, and then he picks up the rest of that premium. So that original 80% is still being covered. Even though the Biden era stuff went away, we're still covering 80% of the premium for people that make less than about $120,000 a year,
right? Which
I think is a pretty good deal. It's a better deal than most of your listeners are getting, better than I'm getting as well.
Yes.
So that was a special extra subsidy because of COVID, and regardless, so it's in it now. and we're trying to figure out long-term solutions, and which I'm very committed to doing. We want to stop sending money to insurance companies. If we have to subsidize money, then let's put it in the pockets of consumers and let them figure out where the best place to spend that money is on health care.
Marshall.senate.gov is the website. It's Senator Dr. Roger Marshall. You know, you're the first person I've interviewed, and I've interviewed probably 24 people on this very topic, who has actually said 80% still gets covered of the premium. It's only 20 that we're adding on top of it. I hadn't heard that before, and I consider myself pretty knowledgeable about the topic. So thank you for doing that. The healthcare program that seems to be pushed by the president is one that I love. You get a health savings account when you're born. You get it and it follows you your whole life. You start building that up in your healthy years, and God forbid you need it later on down the line. You've got a bunch of money that's accrued. Doesn't matter if you were in the same job or a different job, it's always with you. That seems to me to be a great idea. Why is that going to be hard to put into place? I would think that would be pretty easy.
Yeah, so the Republicans want you to have the money and you make the decisions. The Democrats don't think that you're capable. They don't think that you're capable of figuring out how to spend money on health care. Their solution to the cost of health care is just to throw more government money at it. Our solutions are trying to bring the cost of health care down by having more transparency, by turning patients into consumers, and that's going to lead to innovation. When we give people consistency and consumers are making the choices, then there's going to be more innovation. But this really comes down to socialism. The first papers written on communism is they talk about the first thing you have to do is control people's health care.
Yes.
So that's what their goal here. Their goal has always been to control your health care and to lead to Medicare for all. They want to control your lives. And so this is a huge philosophical divide in that I believe that you and your doctor can make these decisions together. And I believe if we have to give you money, that you'll be able to make the decisions on where to spend your money on health care.
I agree with you, but shouldn't there be some, again, your messaging is wonderful. I need you to be on the show every day, I think, to continue getting this out to the people. But shouldn't there be some accountability when Obama said, if you like your plan, you keep your plan? That was a lie. If you like your doctor, keep your doctor. That was a lie. You're going to save $2,500 a year on your health care. That actually was an increase of about $5,000 for the average American. So all of that was just BS. In fact, he said, if it doesn't work, we'll do something and lower your taxes or something. He didn't do any of what he promised. Why can't we get some truth in legislation? Why can't we get truth from somebody who is a de facto leader who sold this thing? It's not a tax, it's a fee. And then John Roberts, of course, of the Supreme Court said it is a tax. It's not a fee. So we were lied to about that nonstop back in 2009, 2010. How do we go back and fix that? Because it seems to me that Obama's got 3 or 4 very, very expensive mansions. He's writing books and living large. He probably ran the Biden administration for 4 years. How do we ever say these people need to be accountable? It's okay he did his 8 years. We're not just going to let him go off into the sunset. The guy lied to our faces. Can you do anything about that?
Well, Joe, I think I can try to fix the problem. And there's plenty of blame to go around here, but I'm just over it. I'm over the blame game. I'm focused on solutions. I think I've got solutions. Rather than giving money to insurance companies, we'll give it to the patients. Our transparency bill, the price tag bills is a great solution. Get rid of the fraud. But again, the Democrats' default position is that the Republicans are taking healthcare away from folks. Right. And at the end of the day, that's why their final argument is this is why we need Medicare for all. Last point I'll make though is the numbers. $5 trillion a year is being spent on healthcare in this country. It's a huge money grab. Wow. So the people that are the big hospitals, the big insurance companies, the PBMs, they're oligopolies.
But I now get it because it is going to keep us safe. Tell me the difference we're going to see in this country when it comes to people dying from drugs being smuggled in. What difference will we see, do you think, with Maduro now facing charges and now a government that's going to be answerable to us, for at least for the short term?
Yeah, Joe, so I think the number one concern I have for the immediate safety of Americans is the drug poisoning. Drug poisoning is the number one killer of youth and young adults. We're losing 100, 200 young adults every day to drug poisoning. So if there's 4 or 5 drug cartels that are responsible for this, and this tin pot dictator was the head of one of them, the Cartel of the Suns, then we took that head of the snake off, right? And I hope it sends a message to the other cartels as well. And nothing happens in a vacuum. I think it started, securing the border was step number one. Blowing up the drug boats, it's decreased 97% of the traffic of those drug boats going in. This is the next step. There's lots more to be done. I think as we shift that economy in Venezuela, though, from a drug-dependent economy back to an oil-based economy, we're going to see more opportunities there as well. I can tell you that the Colombian president has reached out to a President Trump as well, and like all of a sudden he's got religion, as they say. So these are steps in the right direction. We got a lot of work to do.
Do you feel confident that China, Russia, Iran, Cuba, all bad actors that were in our hemisphere, that were all here, taking action to try to bolster their power against the United States, do they get it now? You think they're back on their heels going, holy mackerel? Because China just met with Maduro like the day before. Are they on?
Yeah. So
are they on board now?
Your point is, of course not. They're going to keep pushing back, but they're scared. I mean, what the military operation we pulled off when General Raisin Kane described that to us, blow by blow, I had tears in my eyes. Just the bravery of our soldiers, the job that they did, the precision, the intricacy of that mission, all those things. Truly, no other military could have done what they did. So I think that kind of puts them back on their heels. But I think it's important to keep focus on our goals. And certainly our goals here, number one, stop the flow of drugs into America. Number two, increase the flow of oil. But number three is to kick China the hell out of the Americas. Yeah. We don't want China overseeing the Venezuelan oil. We don't want China overseeing the Panama Canal. We don't want China building a naval base off the shores of Cuba. So I love this Don Road doctrine now out there that America is truly first. So this is a huge step in the right direction.
I agree, and I'm glad that you went there because a lot of people don't understand why this was America first. I understand it now, and I think more people are starting to wake up to it, especially when we see people in Venezuela literally dancing in the streets because suddenly they're going to have a chance to be the country they were before and to be friendly with us again, which they didn't have for a very long time. It's Dr. and Senator Roger Marshall, U.S. Senator, great state of Kansas, marshall.senate.gov, a former retired Army a reserve guy, which I love. I get why you had a tear in your eye. First of all, Raisin Kane is the best name I've ever heard. And secondly, just to hear how we went in there, no death to any Americans, getting this operation done and getting this guy on a boat within a few hours was unbelievable. Doctor, thanks a million for coming on and explaining so well what you do. And let's do it again soon, okay?
Thanks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I appreciate you. We're back after this. Stay right here.
Joe Pags.
Clear.
One in the chat. Let's go. One in the chat. For those who stuck with us even through the issues. appreciate the good doctor coming on. He knows an awful lot about an awful lot. It was a really good day to have him on because of the changes in the CDC's recommendations. Also, the changes in exactly what's going on with the food pyramid, which is, well, that's an interesting. Isn't that an interesting, Polo? Does that sound like that to you too?
Yes.
All right. That's awesome. Well, there you go. That's the Joe Pag Show for today. That is Sam. That is Polo. I'm going to call the internet gods and find out why they did this to us today. Have a great night.
You're listening to Joe Pags.
You're clear.
It's a nice catch. I like how you did that.
Had to try something.
That was good. I'm going to restart everything tonight for sure. That was very weird. Again, the internet stuff is not going to change because I restart, but I'm going to restart everything, including the brick. Might as well.
Oh, brick. My sweet brick.
Wow. All right. Thanks, Sam. Fix your
Very
computer.
good
Thank
stuff.
you.
I have to update it to Windows 11.
Sounds good. You'll be okay. It's almost the same.
Surprise,
Thank you, Polo.
surprise.
Appreciate it.
You got it.
I see you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
See you stream.